Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Into the Storm with John Zemel. As always, I'm your host, John Zemel. I'm back in the Purple Studio again today with everybody's favorite fake plant, and we have so much to talk about today that I literally had to get three different guests to come on just to talk about it. And they're not just any guests; these are very high-profile guests here. We have James Biddulph, the pro fighter from Biddulph. We have Ashley Treasure Theophane, the rangy vet who's been around for years, who just fought this last week. We're going to talk to him about that and talk to him about everything he's learned in the game. And then we have one of our favorites on here. Ryan Rhodes is back in the building to talk about his old opponent, Canelo Alvarez, who's fighting tomorrow night against Callum Smith. So without further ado, no reason to listen to just me anymore. Let's bring on James Biddulph. Everybody, let's welcome him. You all know it takes a minute for the sound to start, but that's okay. We're going to do it anyway. Here we go. Welcome, James Biddulph, everybody. He's connecting the audio, just so you guys know. Here we go. Can you hear us, James? Sometimes takes a second. Here we are. And welcome to the show, James Biddulph. How are you, my friend?
I'm all right, mate. Yourself?
That's what I like to hear, man. That's what I like to hear. So clear something up for me real quick. And so your last name is Biddulph?
Yeah, and I live in a town called Biddulph.
That was the confusion. That was
yeah.
How did that happen?
You know what, mate? I don't even know. I just popped in the world and bam, my name's that. Got a town named after you, mate. So I'll take that.
Yeah, I'll say. Well, that's exciting. You also run the Biddulph Boxing Club. Is that correct?
Yeah, we started that last year, Biddulph Boxing Gym.
Yeah.
So that was it's like sort of a lifelong dream to open my own boxing club, and then to start it. It's just a shame how the current pandemic has panned out, really.
And that's what I was going to ask you, because I got a couple of questions about that. Because not only did you just start a boxing gym last year, you just started your pro career last year. You had your first two pro fights, and then obviously all this happened. Can you take us through kind of how the pandemic has affected both those parts of your life?
Shut it down, really, mate. So I had my second pro fight, and then I took a bit of time off to get the gym set up because I jumped into it head over shoulders. Didn't realize how much time it'd actually take up on you. And then we got it set up and it was booming. And then COVID decided smashes in.
Like it does everything, yeah.
So it's one of them, you've just got to take it, but it's a good time to reflect as well. Reflect on what you can progress with, what you're struggling with, and research stuff a bit more as well.
I like it. Absolutely, man. I mean, so what, as far as your pro career goes, you started you started your career, you had two fights last year. You probably planned on fighting a whole lot more this year. And then, I mean, we see a lot of how COVID affects a lot of fighters at the very top of the game, you know, the names, everything you hear about. And obviously it affects them. But for someone like you who's just getting started in that game, how is COVID really, how is it starting a career 1 year in and COVID hits?
I think it's difficult for boxers at my level because you normally box on your small house shows where you sell your own tickets and stuff. So obviously you can't sell your tickets, but then you've got your names like AJ and Fury and even Canelo tonight and stuff. They sell it through pay-per-view. So you haven't got to worry as much about that, have you? Because you're not paying for your stuff yourself, are you, in essence? Your pay-per-views are covering your overheads. Whereas for us lads, it's all on ticket sales and your fan base. And then obviously the more active you are as a boxer or is any combat sport, the more common knowledge your name becomes. And that's what every boxer dreams of. He's getting your name to be a household name. But not everyone makes it, you know. And it's one of them sports where you've just got to keep persevering. And take for prime example, a stablemate of mine, Jamie Stewart, kept in the gym. Jamie's a top lad. Got the Hennessy fight, beat Hennessy. and then got the call out for Matchroom. Do you know what I mean? And that's what people of my level, that's what you dream of, don't you? You dream of that from being a child.
We had Jamie on last week. He was incredible. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. That's what you do. You keep it going. And like you said, if you can't, fight, because you can't at that level, because there's no money if you're not on television right now, because there's no crowds. So it makes it really difficult to take a year off of your career at the very beginning. Where do you see yourself? No, I'm sorry. You go ahead.
You can't even box for nothing. You can't even say, look, I'll go on that show and I box for nothing on the small old shows, because you've got the governing bodies that want the money for the officials and, the time, the premises. So you can't even go down that route, really, can you?
No, you can't. No, it's pretty crazy, man. And we've had a few, a lot of people at the beginning of their career come on this show, and I ask them that question every time, and I've heard pretty much the same answer every time, but I still like hearing it, because we don't get that side of things as boxing fans very often, and it's super, interesting, but also really kind of sad to see, because it's
and a lot of people just see the fighting and they think, oh, it's a fighting, but it's not. It's the preparation what goes into these fights. You're training, and then not only are you training after you've been to work, you go to training to get yourself fit. You're going for your early morning runs, and then you're running around selling tickets. And if you don't sell your tickets, you're not fighting. And it is knit and gritty at the bottom of the sport. That's how it begins. But when I was an amateur, and I was winning my national titles and my Midlands titles, you don't see that really. You're not really aware of that. Well, I wasn't then. I was fought to pros, man. That's where it's at. That's where it's at, But really, the amateurs was, for me, was where the love of it really was, because you wasn't boxing for money. You didn't have to worry about tickets. You went out and you portrayed yourself. But again, the amateurs are a completely different game to the pros. I think the pros are a lot slower, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's a slower game.
Absolutely. It is in many ways a very different sport. It's kind of crazy to see.
Yeah.
Well, then let's move forward. We talked about 2020 plenty. What does 2021 look like for you? What does it look like for your gym? Do you get started again in your career? Can we yet? I know no one knows what we're expecting.
Yeah, I've just started kicking back in training.
Good.
With hopes to fight again. Well, I've spoke to Scott Lawton and the team and that. And I'm just going to get fit. And if one of these opportunities come up at short notice, like I'll jump in, and I just want to fight, man. I just want to see where my level is. I knew where my level was as an amateur. I want to see where my level stands as a pro. And if anyone wants it, I'll get in and I'll stand toe-to-toe with any of you like. And I think that's the best way to do it. None of this pussyfooting about saying, oh, well, we're boxing, but I'm only doing it for this, or I want that much money. Get in and have it out and see where your level is. Do you know what I mean? That's what it was like in the amateurs. You fight every week or and you'd see, and you knew where your level was. You knew when someone beat you, if you could go back and beat him again, you knew then you was above that level. Whereas in the pros, I think a lot of people just want constant journeymen or on the same level, and that's what kills the sport a little bit for me. I mean, I can't say nothing. I've had my 2 pro fights against 2 journeymen, but yeah, that's how you develop your career into going up.
That's one of the big things. I agree. And that is one of those things. In the beginning of your career, you do need to develop the pro game. You have to, it's not, you have to go out there and challenge yourself, start slow, and you got to crawl before you walk. And it's one thing about boxing. But I do agree, once you get to a certain level, you should be expected to continue to fight people at that level. And it's something that gets criticized oftentimes.
Definitely, mate. Definitely. And journeymen, you can't take nothing away from them because they're tough men.
Oh my God.
And they're just going out to do the job. They're going out to feed the families. That's their work. And people don't see that. I'm a thingy for my mouth on social media, like when people take the mick out of them, because none of them have got. How many people have got the balls to go and do what they do, get punched in the head week in, week out? It's not a normal thing to do, is it? Like, I think boxers have got to have something wired up wrong for want to do that every day, but it's a love that you grow into over the years from doing it.
Absolutely.
And I tell my kids in my gym, like, boxing and combat sports, one of the most respectful things you can do, because you can get in, you have your fight and your competition with someone, and at the end of it, if you've got any sort of dignity, you shake each other's hands and give each other a hug. And and you're just seeing who's the best, and you're competing at that level. It's not all about boxing and about I'm the hardest at this. It's about mutual respect with people and growing up with them boundaries, in my eyes anyway.
I love it. I love it. James, I really appreciate you coming on talking to us. This is we're taking off next week, so this is our Christmas show. That's why I'm dressed like Farrakhan. But so I'm asking everybody this week, your Christmas wish, what is a dream fight for 2021 for you? And it could be you could be in it. It could be your dream opponent, or you could talk about somewhere else in the pro game. What is a dream matchup you'd like to see? Christmas wish.
I think anyone's dream matchup at the minute is Fury and Joshua.
There it is.
And I'll back Fury all day long.
I guess we'll see, huh?
We will see. We will. But I hope Canelo does it this week. Not Canelo, Smith. I hope Smith does it this weekend.
That's a big one, man. We're going to preview that in a little bit. I really appreciate you coming on, James. We'll talk to you again before your next fight.
Can I just say thanks to a couple of sponsors of mine?
Of course. Please.
Fine Elements Clothing, they've just got on board with me. Skin Shocks Tattoos in Biddulph. iFix and Glee Farm Butchers. Without sponsorships at my level, it's very difficult to come forward in your career, and then people back you, and it means a lot. Like, so I do appreciate everyone's help. Absolutely. And I appreciate you for having me on, John. I really do.
It was my pleasure, James. It was my pleasure. Yeah. We'll talk to you again soon. All right, mate?
Down. Have a good Christmas, John.
You too.
See you later, mate.
All right, everybody. James Biddulph. That was exciting. We're going to go ahead and say goodbye to James. There we go.
See you later.
He's gone. Next up, we have Ashley Theophane, the acclaimed veteran. Let's bring him on here. He's connecting to audio. Hopefully he'll see us that we're here. Obviously, he's been waiting in the waiting room. All of our guests, if you're not the first guest, they have to wait in the waiting room, and they're all very patient. We like that very much. It's very nice. Let's see if we can get Ashley on here. Come on, Ashley. There we go. Take a quick break. Let's welcome Ashley Theophane into the storm. Ashley, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, man. Relaxing, chilling. You know it is. COVID times. It's weird right now.
It is weird, but it's a good time for chilling.
Yeah, indeed. You have to make the most of life.
That's absolutely right. And you have done just that. You have been around a very long time. Yes. You had your first pro fight in 2003. That was LeBron James's rookie year. You have the same career length as LeBron James, and he's been around a long time.
Oh, cool.
You're 48-9. It's a very good record. You fought Danny Garcia. You fought Adrian Broner. You had a lot. You headlined cards in Las Vegas and all over the place. I guess we'll start by asking, how do you want your career to be remembered, and what do you see coming up for the rest of your career?
So basically, I would like my career to see as a guy who achieved against the odds. You know what I mean? I come from the UK, but in the end, I went to the USA. I had some big fights over there. I was with Floyd for 5 years, and I had a great time. So I would like, because there's a lot of guys, you already know, in the USA, you got a lot of the guys in the club shows. Yes. And a lot of them, it's hard for them to break out of that. So I basically started over here, like on the club shows. And I broke out. I became British champion. I fought all over the world. So for me, I'm one of those guys who achieved against the odds.
Absolutely, you did. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so you fought this last Friday, a week ago today. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Obviously, you didn't get the results you were looking for, but can you kind of walk us through that fight? Tell us what happened.
So for me, like last year, so I got 50 pro wins now because box rec is off on 2 fights. So I got 50 pro wins. So last year I achieved that feat, and I was basically content to retire then. But I wanted to fight back home because I hadn't fought home in 8 years. So I got this call, I think it was like 5 weeks ago. I was in the gym, and they asked me if I wanted to fight. And I said, cool. So I knew the odds were against me, but at the same time, I didn't really care because for me, it was like my UK like farewell fight. So I didn't care. I told my coaches, knew I got into great shape, but I told them I don't care if I win or lose. I just want to go out there and have a good fight and just come out safe. So that's kind of the mentality. And with Sam is still young.
Yeah.
So he said he wants to beat me because he wants to fight for the world belt. So for me, I said to Sam, if I beat you, it means 0 to my career. I've achieved everything I'm going to achieve. So our mentalities going into the fight were on 2 different things. I just wanted to go in there, just fight and just have fun. He wanted to go in there to win because he wants to go on to do more. So that's basically like where it is, isn't it? Like, is what it is.
Well, that's exciting. That's awesome, man. You mentioned earlier that you mentioned earlier you were with Mayweather Promotions for 5 years.
Yeah.
I'm only asking this question because it was big news this week, and we're a boxing show, and we have to. You have any thoughts on Mayweather's potential, YouTube exhibition coming up? Having spent the years you had with him.
You know what? You know what it is. I see a lot of fans. They give this a lot of stick, but for me, I really don't have an issue because Floyd's retired.
Yeah,
he's retired, so it's not a pro. It's not a pro fight. It's gonna be like, you know what I mean. So I don't really have no issue with a guy who is retired having these kind of fights.
I couldn't agree more.
So I really haven't got. But it's sad. I don't want to see a lot of these old guys like Mike and Roy who have been retired for so long trying to come back to have hard fights. I don't want to see these guys who I used to look up to get hurt. You know what I mean? So I don't mind them doing it, but I don't mind as long as they go in there and they have fun and they're not trying to kill each other. Like, you know what I mean? So that's where I stand on it. I don't mind if they're going in there just to have fun because they just want to have a little fight. But when they trying to hurt each other, that's when I don't want it to go down. So that's kind of how I stand. I don't mind if they're going in there just to have fun, like a spar. You're going in there to have like a light spar, I'm cool with it. But if they're trying to kill each other like in the pros, then I'm like, nah, like, stop it.
I could not agree more. That's an excellent point. That's an excellent way of putting it. Now, you're one of these few people. Obviously, I'm American. I do the show in America, but it's on a British site for British fight fans.
Okay.
We do a lot of British back and forth.
Yeah.
You know, we a lot of joking, a lot of back and forth. But you're one of the few people who can really serve as a basis of comparison for both places. How do you compare the US and the UK, both in the way that fight fans are, the way that fighters are, and just the game in general? I mean, can you do a little quick comparison for us?
I would say the sport over here is more loved. I would say the sport over here is more loved. So you see the fans, they come out to support a lot of the guys. But the big money fights are in the USA. Hence, a lot of these UK guys, if they want to make the big cash, they have to go to they got to go to the USA. So I think our sport is kind of more loved here because we're smaller.
Sure.
And you guys in America, you got so many other sports. So it's kind of, you guys like, our sport is not like the main sport there. So I think our fans over here, they show more love and stuff. But there's still a lot of like the pros over there and the amateurs over there. Like I've seen little kids as young as 8, 9. They train like little pros. So there's some out there who still take their sport very, very seriously. So it's still a much love sport, but at the same time, if you want the big fights, if you want to get the big cash, you still have to go to the USA because that's where it's going down. Like it doesn't matter how big it is over here, you still, if you want the main, look, you got the big fights, all the British stars, they all go over to the USA. And I think a lot of the British fans, they don't like to see that because they're like, we help to build up these British guys. And then when it comes to the big time, they leave us to go to the USA. That's just how it is. Yeah, it's just how it is because it is a professional sport and it's about, you got to make the money. It's a short career and you got to make as much as you can. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Get the bag as quick as you can.
Yeah.
I got just a couple more questions for you, man. We saw some really big name prospects fight this weekend, at least American prospects. We saw Shakur Stevenson, Edgar Berlanga. We saw Chris Colbert. We saw a lot of guys Now, being through the career that you've been through, if you were to give any advice to maybe some of these young cats, what advice would you give to some of these prospects that you saw fight this weekend? Just in general.
So basically, you just got to make the most of your career, because the career is a short career, and just from the start, you know what I mean, you got to be on it. Guys like Ward, like Andre Ward, he knew from the very start what he wanted to go out there and do, and it's good to see that Stevenson has got him to count on for advice.
Yes,
so I think that sorry, and Shakur. So
yeah,
Shakur's in a good spot.
No, I said, but yeah,
Shakur's got Ward. Yeah, so Shakur's got Ward there to advise him, and that's very good. You got Colbert. I've known him from like 10 years ago, because I used to train in the same gym as him.
Oh,
so
wow.
When he was a little kid, he was a little kid in the gym, and I used to see him and be like, I'm gonna be champion one day, I'm gonna be champion. And the way he believed in himself as a little kid. So it's great to see this New York kid go on to do what he's doing now, because he's still young, so he can improve. But it's just so good to see. I saw this kid like 10 years ago when he was a little kid, and he's actually on the TV now doing big fights. So it's nice to see him doing big stuff, because he always believed that he was going to be there. So it's nice to see him there now. And Belenga, he just beat Linnell, I think in like two months ago. And he looks like the real deal. He looks like the real deal. So you never know with these guys until they step up. But right now he's got the power, but we just got to wait till he steps up to the next stage, and then that's when we will see. But right now he's looking entertaining. That's what the fans want to see. The fans want to see KOs, and that's what he's doing.
I could not agree more. Thank you so much for coming on and joining us, Ashley. One more question before you go. This is our Christmas show. If you had one Christmas wish dream fight for 2021, what would it be?
Tyson and AJ. They got to get it done. Tyson and AJ. They got to make the fight happen for next year, man. That's a big fight for Britain, and it's a big fight for the world.
The world.
So
the heavyweight
that's why I
championship.
hope that they can. Yeah. So that is the big fight that I want to see go down.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope to have you on again soon. Thank you very much.
All right.
Ashley,
all right, my man. See ya. Peace.
Peace. Merry Christmas, man. There we go. And last but certainly not least, we have our main event, the great Ryan Spice Boy Rhodes, coming on right now. Let's see if he's ready. I like catching him by surprise, seeing if they're ready. Is he ready? Let's see. Oh, he don't look ready. There he is. You know it takes a second with the audio. There he is. Can you hear us, Ryan? Uh-oh.
Hello.
There he is. Ryan Rhodes, everybody. Back on the show.
There I am.
How are you, brother?
How are you?
I'm well. I'm really
good.
well.
I'm good.
How are you?
Yeah. Getting better now. Obviously, we've got Christmas next week, so got something to look forward to. But yeah, I'm all good.
That's really good to hear, Ryan. It's good to have you back on. I haven't seen you in about a month. It's good to see you, man. We got a lot to talk about, Ryan, and we don't have a ton of time. Let's get after it. First of all, Merry Christmas ahead of time. This last weekend, we saw Anthony Joshua versus Pulev. It was a really big, exciting, fun fight. Can you give me your takeaways from that fight?
To be fair, I thought Anthony Joshua did really well. Pulev looked massively up for the fight, massively. You could see at the weigh-in that this kid meant business. I think a lot of people have given Anthony Joshua quite a bit of stick because of him not finishing him in the third round when the two knockdowns happened. But honestly, I think from the Andy Ruiz fight, I think Anthony Joshua probably lost a bit of confidence. And I think the two knockdowns in the third round, I think he probably thought of the Andy Ruiz fight, and didn't want to, just jump on it and just pile in like he did in that fight. So I think he used his brain a little bit more in this fight, bided his time, and then, it happened when it needed to happen.
Yeah, on one hand, you could say he lost confidence because we've seen him try and finish somebody and have to pay for it. But at the same time, you could also say, like you, I think, are getting at, that he gained patience and a little bit of maturity, and instead of trying to finish a guy off as soon as they seemed hurt, he was, more confident in his abilities and said, "I'm going to let this play out, keep going. I hurt him once, I can hurt him again." And eventually, when the time was right, he was able to finish him. And I thought he did phenomenal too. I don't. I've seen a lot of criticism of him, and I don't know why. Kubrat Pulev looked like he brought his A game, and AJ completely neutralized it in every way. I was very impressed by the performance that he put on.
I agree. I agree.
Good. Well, you are one of the few people in the world that have shared a ring with Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez, what more can we say? He's not only the biggest name in the sport, he's the pound for pound king. He's everything. I mean, he is the game of boxing incarnate in a lot of ways right now. And once again, he is stepping up to what could very well be the hardest challenge out there for him. I'd love to preview this fight with you. Let's start from the beginning. Callum Smith, he's a lot taller. He's 6'3" or however many centimeters that is for you guys out there. He is the TBRB and ESPN both have him as the number one super middleweight in the world. He's 27-0. He's a monster. He's in no way a pushover. We've been waiting for this fight for years. I mean, let's just dig into it. How do you see this fight going? What are you looking forward to?
Well, I mean, some of the clips you see on the size difference just looks, crazy, crazy. I mean, I remember when I was in New York when Canelo boxed Rocky Fielding, and Rocky Fielding was quite a lot taller than Canelo in that fight. But Callum Smith is another 2-3 inches taller than Rocky Fielding. But the saying goes, size isn't everything. Size isn't everything. And we know how good Callum Smith is. We know how good Canelo is. This is going to be a fantastic fight. A fantastic fight. The one thing is that they're both winners. They both want to prove themselves that they're the best out there. And we're going to find out on Saturday night who is really the best 168 out there. We know as big as Callum Smith is, he throws them body shots amazingly well. Not big guys throw body shots as good as what Callum Smith does. And we know that. I really think that Callum will try and work the body, try and slow Canelo down quite a bit. But listen, it's just so interesting, this fight. Canelo only chooses the best fighters out there. It's in his resume. That's all he does. He picks the best because he wants to be the number one pound for pound fighter out there. And we're going to see on Saturday night how good Canelo is or how good Callum Smith is.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, we've really been blessed since we've been back. Obviously, COVID has been horrible for the world and boxing in general. But what we got with that after that 6-month layoff has been just a slate of week after week after week, really high profile, exciting fights. And it's ending this week with quite possibly the biggest one. You have the number one pound for pound fighter in the world and the biggest name in the sport fighting his toughest test out there. I mean, literally, everyone has their opinions, but Callum Smith, this is his natural weight class, and it's the best best fighter at that class. I mean, you're talking about a dream matchup in so many ways, and we're getting it tomorrow. Like you said, this could very well end up being the fight of the year. This could very well end up being the best matchup that we've had in 2020, and it's coming right before the bell. It's really exciting to see.
You've just got to take your hat off to both fighters because both of the fighters have took a massive pay cut in this fight. Fair play to Matchroom, Eddie Earn, DAZN. They've put the money up. They've made this fight possible, and both the fighters, have took a massive pay cut because they want to see and they want to test themselves who's the best 168 fighter out there. So we're going to see Saturday night, and I'm so looking forward to it. And like you said, under the circumstances, we've seen some fantastic fights over the last few months. Fantastic fights, and it's down to the fighters that took the pay cuts to get to agree to these fights and put it all on the line. And you've got to just what's 2021 going to bring? When things do settle down, we can get crowds in the venues. What's 2021 going to bring? I think 2021 is going to be a fantastic year for the world of boxing, for the world, to create them big fights, get the pound for pound fighters in with each other and make them super fights.
I could not agree more, and I could not be more excited. And even if you take it back a couple of months now, you look at Canelo and what he was going through with his legal battle with the Golden Boy and DAZN. And I mean, I'm not going into the details, but the truth was we didn't know when we'd see him again at all. We didn't know if they were going to try and wait him out and make him feel like he needed to fight because his career, only has so many years, or what was going to happen. If you had told me 2 months ago that he was going to be fighting Callum Smith in 2020, I would have told you were out of your mind. And now here we are a day before it happens. And what a gift we've gotten, what a Christmas gift from the boxing gods here. How unbelievably exciting this is. But
it's so exciting. It's so exciting.
But before that, we have a fight that starts right now. We got Triple G versus name that I'm saying for the first time in my life, Camille Saramata. I feel you look at Triple G's career, and he's a guy who many people believe had the talent to be an all-time great middleweight in a lot of ways. You look at him, and his career was really geared on a collision course for Canelo Alvarez, which is the way a lot of careers are. When you have a star as bright as Canelo, other entities get in that gravity, and he was very much a part of that. When you look at how his career's played out in the last 4 or 5 years, ever since that, he arguably beat Canelo the first time, but it was a draw and a loss on paper. And then since then, he's fought a lot of nobodies outside of Derevyanchenko, which a lot of people thought he lost. I don't want to make this come off as too critical of him, but it's really sad to see somebody as talented as he was, who entered the pro game as late as he did. And really, what are we going to remember him for? A controversial draw?
Well, it's hard for such as like your Triple G. I mean, he does want to fight. He's another fighter what really does want to fight the best. And I think he's, along with Billy Joe Saunders, along with Callum Smith, along with a couple other fights, they have been chasing the Canelo fight. They have been chasing. And at the end of the day, Canelo can only fight one opponent. We all know Canelo fights twice a year. Obviously, this is the first time he's fought this year, but he only fights twice a year anyway. So these top fighters, someone is going to get that big, get that phone call, and some fighters aren't going to get that phone call. We've seen 2 amazing fights with Canelo and Triple G, and I believe we will see a trilogy. I really do see that. It has to happen because the 2 fights, they were both controversial decisions. Some had Triple G winning, some had Canelo winning. So we've got to see a trilogy just to, put that to bed and make our own minds up who we think win. But I think the trilogy will make that decision for us.
I hear that, and I like it. But I want to speak to that point about how everybody's in kind of the Canelo sweepstakes, is I guess how I'd call it. These guys in 168 and around him. And I think you have 2 options there. I'm glad you brought up Billy Joe Saunders because he fought somebody whose name I already forgot last week. And he looked good. But I think when you're waiting for one matchup, right, I think there's 2 ways to get it. One is you sit back and you wait for them to, wait for that spot to open up, and you try not to lose ahead of time, kind of like, with Anthony Joshua and Ruiz on their way, when it seemed like he was on a collision course with Wilder. And the other way is to go out and force that fight. And I kind of feel like I saw that when Jamal Charlo fought Derevyanchenko this year and put on the kind of show that he put on. He put himself in the Canelo conversation where before he wasn't really in that conversation. And I think if you're a guy, like you said, he can only fight twice a year, and some guys are going to get that phone call and some guys aren't. I wonder your thoughts on whether it's better to play it safe like Triple G and Billy Joe Saunders did here, or to go out there and kind of force the conversation like I feel like Jamal Charlo did.
Yeah, I think they do force that conversation. I think their managers and their promoters, I think they do force it. But they've still got their own career to think about. They can't just concentrate on and wait for the Canelo phone call because they'll be waiting. They could be waiting forever.
Of course.
Like I said, I mean, Billy Joe Saunders, he made the choice that, he wasn't even considering the Canelo fight, whether it was going to happen. He wasn't given enough time. So he went on and fought Martin Murray. You know, fought
Busy,
Tony a
yeah.
couple of weeks ago, boxed well, did what he had to do, got the decision. Remember that fight should have happened a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Fell through a couple of times. It ended up happening. Billy Joe Saunders did what he needs to do. They can't wait around just for Canelo. They've got their own path to choose and to lead, and and create their own legacy. If the fight does happen, they're all next year, 2021. It'll happen again. They'll all look at the Canelo fight. They'll all look at chasing the Canelo fight. It's bound to happen.
Yeah.
So, but they're professional fighters. They know that Canelo fights twice. These fighters, what we're talking about, probably only fight twice as well. So they've just got to think about tunnel vision, concentrate on their own career. If the Canelo fight happens, it happens, but concentrate on their own career.
That's an excellent point. I love it. Ryan, I really appreciate having you on, as always. Thank you for previewing what may be the best fight of the year with me. Before you go, though, it is our Christmas show. We won't be on next week because of Christmas, and that's why I'm dressed like this, the velvet bow tie.
You look very smart. You look very smart. Loving it.
But so I want to wish you a Merry Christmas, first of all. And second of all, I want to ask you, like I asked all my other guests on the show, for your Christmas wish, what dream matchup do you see for 2021? If you could see anybody fighting, who is your dream matchup 2021?
I think you already know what I'm going to say. It has to be Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. It has to. This fight has to happen. It comes around once in a lifetime, something like that, especially two Brits what have got all the belts. I've listened to a couple of interviews and, obviously there's an issue with the WBO, whether Usyk or whether WBO will allow this fight to happen. It has to happen for all the belts. Got to. 2021 is happening.
I really hope you're right. I don't think I have to tell you, but the other two guests had the exact same Christmas wish. Well, I hope the boxing gods and Santa and whoever else in the WBO are all listening. We need that fight 2021. Thank you for being on our show this many times. This might be my last show of the year, but the next show we're going to do our end of year awards. It's been a weird year, and we're going to have some strange awards, but I'm looking forward to it. Ryan, thank you for joining us once again. Thank you all for listening. I hope to see you guys again soon, and have a Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year, guys.
There it is.